In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
Experience Earth's perfect keto snack for yourself by going to eatpeelynuts.com. That's eatpeelynuts, spelled PILINUTS.com, and use the coupon code LLVLC at checkout to save 10% off of your first order. Wild nutrition, beyond organic, naturally ketogenic. Peely Hunters.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. If you'd like to engage in the content live, there's only one way you can do that, and that is go follow me on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man on Instagram, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there on Instagram, you can engage live in the content, just like all these people that are coming in right now. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. If you missed the replay on Instagram, it's all good. Go check it out. All the past episodes are up on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, either on YouTube or Google. You will find the show. Finally, there is a Jimmy Rants podcast, which has the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. JimmyRants.com has links to every way that you can access this show. Today's Jimmy Rants is another one of those articles, you guys. You know you see them out there in the mainstream of health publications. And this one is from Victoria Advocate. That is a Canadian newspaper. And the name of the article, Doctors, Keto Diet is Unhealthy in the Long Term. Unhealthy in the long term. Oh, this is going to be good. And they make some statements in here that are really, really interesting that I thought I got to go on Jimmy Rants and rant. And one of the things that they talk about is what's in the pinned post, and we'll get to that here in just a second. More and more of Dr. Craig Chang's patients ask him what he thinks about the keto diet after he's reduced the size of their stomachs in an operating room. It drives me crazy because many of them are looking for a kind of easy fix to lose a few more pounds, he said. So it's a bariatric physician that is lamenting that people are talking about a diet that can help shed pounds. Am I missing something here? I would think a bariatric physician would be more than happy to talk with his patients about how to eat in such a way that it keeps the weight off. But let's continue. Chang, who has been a bariatric surgeon in Victoria since 2003, says he ends up sounding a lot like Jillian Michaels, the personal trainer known for her appearance on The Biggest Loser TV show and a recent keto critic. I tell them the same thing that she said. I may incur the wrath of fans of keto, but keto is basically a repackaging of the Atkins diet, so just don't do it. All right, let's camp out there a while. Keto is just a repackaging of the Atkins diet. All right, for those of you playing at home, let's explain the difference between the two. If you've read my book, Keto Clarity, we do this in chapter 2. What's the difference between keto and Atkins? The Atkins diet advocates for keeping carbs at 20 grams to start. Okay, so you start at 20 grams, and that's the starting point for the induction phase. And then you go up from there at 5 gram per week increments until you reach your carb tolerance. Okay, but you start at 20. Ketogenic diets also start at 20 grams of total carbs. The big difference, you guys, is what you do with fat and protein. On the Atkins diet, Dr. Atkins advocated for eating unlimited amounts of fat and protein. Unlimited. Of course, his thinking there was, all right, people are going to keep the carbs low, and an unlimited amount of fat and protein, they're going to gravitate towards more fat because it's much more satiating than protein is. But what he didn't realize is people were very fat phobic when he started promoting his diet. And so they would eat chicken breast with broccoli thinking that's really, really good. Is it an Atkins friendly approach to do chicken breast and broccoli? You bet it is. Is it ketogenic? You bet it ain't. Because what ketogenic does is it puts a finer point on what to do with the fat and the protein. By definition, a ketogenic diet is not just low carb, but it's moderate in protein and high in dietary fat. Okay? It generally works out to somewhere around 70 to 80% fat, somewhere around 20% to 25% protein, and then the rest carbs, 5, 10%, whatever, depending on your carb tolerance. So that's the big difference. So for him to say, this bariatric surgeon, Dr. Craig Chang, to say that keto is basically a repackaging of the Atkins diet is asinine. It's not. Is it similar? Yes, it's similar in as much as you do restrict carbohydrates for the purposes of lowering insulin levels. Is it ketogenic? Does it produce ketones to be in the Atkins diet? Maybe, but maybe not. And that's why being very deliberate about lowering and moderating down on the protein is so critical. When I wrote Keto Clarity and released it 5 years ago, that was the major revelation that so many people were so thankful for that they'd never heard articulated before. And the reason they weren't being optimal on their ketogenic pursuit, they thought just simply cut your carbs and you're going to be in ketosis. And that's not at all true for a lot of people. Can you be in ketosis just cutting carbs to 20 grams? Maybe, but some people need to take that extra step to moderate down on the protein and to eat more fat. Now, again, not gorge fat, but eat more fat with moderate protein and low carb. But let's continue. If you're just joining us, we are reading this news article that was in the Victoria Advocate, written by a lady named Jessica Priest. And the headline, Doctors, Keto Diet is Unhealthy in the Long Term. And so far we've heard from a bariatric physician who said that keto is basically Atkins and don't do it. All right. So they go on in the article describing the Atkins diet, popular in the 2000s. It restricted carbs. Critics have said that it can cause heart problems. The bariatric surgeon also said, your cholesterol is probably going to go up. To which I say, Dr. Chang, big whoop-de-doo. Big whoop-de-doo. High cholesterol is not a disease. It's not. High cholesterol doesn't really tell you anything, because a high total cholesterol includes something you want high, your HDL cholesterol. A high total cholesterol doesn't even take into account what your triglycerides are doing, which are another key heart element in your lipid panel that nobody talks about. High total cholesterol includes a number in there that is merely calculated, guesstimated, using this thing called the Friedewald equation, and that's your LDL-C. So why, pray tell, your cholesterol is probably going to go up? Why do I care? I could do a whole nother Jimmy Rants, and I have. I've done other Jimmy Rants all about cholesterol and why you don't need to worry about LDL-C or total cholesterol. Look at your triglycerides. He makes no mention of that. Look at your HDL cholesterol. Again, no mention of that. Just your cholesterol is probably going to go up. And those are the things that matter. If you want to get all nerdy, you can ask for an NMR lipo profile and see what the size of the particles of LDL are and what the preponderance of the size of that LDL particle. But you really don't need to do that. Divide your triglycerides by your HDL, and if that number's under 3, you're decently good. If it's under 1, you're optimally good. And you can be pretty much assured if your triglyceride to HDL ratio is 1 or below, that you have mostly the large fluffy kind of LDL, which are not harmful to your health at all. And yet, he wants to make a big deal about the cholesterol. Your cholesterol is probably going to go up on the keto diet. Whoop-de-friggin-do. But let's continue. Chang said the way to what he considers to be lasting major weight loss, which is losing between 50 and 75 pounds, and here's his prescription. Eat smaller portions consisting of high-quality protein, such as meat, fish, or eggs, as well as a piece of fruit and a vegetable at every meal. All right. So if you eat meat and fruit and vegetables at every meal, you're going to lose weight, he says. How many of you have tried that? How many of you have obediently added in these healthy foods and not seen the results? Yeah, me too. At least he didn't say whole grains, beans, quinoa, and all this kind of nonsense. He did talk about high-quality protein, meat, fish, or eggs, fruit, and vegetables. Take away the fruit, and what do you have? You have a ketogenic meal. So the very diet that he's telling people to avoid is the very diet, sans the fruit. For most people, sans the fruit. Some people can eat fruit even on a ketogenic diet, and being ketosis. But he's recommending the very diet that he's saying he's vehemently against. Does that make any sense at all? High quality protein such as meat, fish, or eggs, as well as a fruit and vegetable at every meal. So if you have a ribeye steak and you have a handful of blueberries and you have cauliflower and broccoli, he considers that a really good meal. And so would I. So it's kind of funny in the one breath mocking keto and saying, don't do it. It's just Atkins. And yet, the very diet that he says that will help you permanently lose between 50 to 75 pounds is the same diet. Makes no sense at all. Let's go to the next bariatric surgeon, Dr. B. Dean McDaniel. There he is. Here's Dr. McDaniel. So Dr. B. Dean McDaniel explained that fruits and vegetables are natural carbohydrates that the bodies need. Newsflash, Dr. McDaniel, there is no needed carbohydrate. None. There is no such thing as an essential, necessary carbohydrate to be consumed. There are needed fats. Fatty acids is what they're called. There are needed proteins. Amino acids is what that's called. But there is no requirement for a carbohydrate acid because it doesn't exist. You don't have a necessary carbohydrate. None. Yet that's what he says. He goes on to say that cutting them out will decrease your metabolism. Please, pray tell me how that happens. How is eliminating carbohydrates from your diet going to decrease your metabolism? I'm sorry, what? What, you don't know? That's right, you don't know. This has a significant impact on how many calories you will burn when you are not exercising. All right, let me get this straight. Cutting out carbs decreases your metabolism, and it has an impact on the number of calories you will burn when you're not exercising. And then ultimately it will have an impact on your long-term weight control. Does that make any sense to anybody? A significant impact on how many calories you will burn. So my choice to ingest carbohydrates or not ingest carbohydrates is going to affect how many calories I burn. Here's how it works, Dr. McDaniel, in case you didn't know. If you eat excessive carbohydrates for your body and you raise the hormone insulin, then you're going to shut down your body's ability to burn stored body fat. And that is what's going to cause problems controlling your weight. Not eliminating carbohydrates or significantly reducing carbohydrates from the diet. It's very elementary, my dear. If you just knew basics of biochemistry, you would know that if you're raising insulin levels, eating carbs, you're going to make it very difficult for fat burning to take place. But if you're decreasing carbohydrate intake, eating keto, down goes the insulin, and that's what allows your stored body fat to be freed. And you don't have this long-term weight control problem that you're describing. All right, so if you're just joining us, we are talking about another one of these headlines. This one's out of the Victoria Advocate in Canada. Doctors, keto diet is unhealthy in the long term. So far, we've heard from a couple of bariatric physicians. Next up, we have a patient. His name, Jacob Gandy. He decided keto was unhealthy after he read an article about it in Men's Health magazine. Oh, because we know Men's Health would never lie. He owns a meal prep business and sometimes will make meals for those on keto. You want to know what he puts in these keto meals? Mr. Gandy says one such keto meal consists of chicken thighs. Okay, I suppose that's okay. It's a darker meat chicken. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes. What, pray tell, makes him think that sweet potato would be appropriate on a ketogenic diet? Especially for people with insulin resistance. Makes no friggin' sense at all, does it? And quinoa. So his keto meal is chicken thighs, sweet potatoes, and quinoa. And people wonder why they're so confused about keto. When you read that kind of info and you don't know anything about keto, and you read that and you get this meal service from this guy, I'm promoting keto, and he feeds you chicken thighs, sweet potatoes, and quinoa. He goes on, I have a lot more people that enjoy gluten-free meals as opposed to keto-friendly. Well, here's the thing. Gluten is not the only issue. Gluten is just one reactive protein that some people respond to. It's not a gluten issue. It's a carbohydrate issue. And it's those carbohydrates that turn to sugar in the body, which raises blood sugar, which raises blood insulin levels, which then makes it very difficult for the body to lose stored body fat. You can have all the gluten-free foods in the world, but that rice flour ain't going to save you from the carbs that are in it. It's just not. So some of these gluten-free options, they're gluten-free, but they're not carb-free. And they're not even low in carbohydrates. So I've never liked the gluten-free movement. And the very few people that are celiac, you know how to avoid those kinds of things. And please embrace whatever gluten-free options. But here's the thing. Most of the keto foods, most of them are indeed, I need my light so you can see me. Most of the keto foods are indeed gluten-free as well. So why are we producing gluten-free foods that aren't keto? I don't get it. But he says people enjoy gluten-free meals as opposed to keto-friendly. I bet if you actually made a keto-friendly meal, they would enjoy it better. Because remember, this guy's idea of keto-friendly is chicken thighs, sweet potatoes, and quinoa. He said people shouldn't do keto over the long term. Once you lose your desired amount of weight, I feel like you should get to a more body-friendly, leafy green involved diet. Oh my freaking gosh. This guy has a meal service designed to help people with specific diets. And he doesn't even realize that a ketogenic diet allows for leafy greens. So have your chicken thigh, but replace the sweet potato with a spinach salad. And replace the quinoa with like a cauliflower au gratin. How hard is this? I sometimes think people like this are trying to sabotage and co-opt the keto message so they can make it go away because it's not good for their business. Ugh. So, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, when you read these headlines, and I do a bunch of them here on Jimmy Rants, doctors, keto diet's unhealthy in the long term. They've really not explained why it's actually unhealthy. All they've done is shown how ignorant they are about the keto way of living. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Thanks for being here. I was just watching your rant from this morning. Please take care. Hey, I will take care. That's why I did that rant this morning. More BS, says Bonnie. Yes. Keto nurse Jess, what the heck is this doctor's gripe with Whole Foods again? Dr. Atkins was onto something. He didn't quite hit it, but it was never found to be dangerous per se. No, it has not. Not at all. Not with the weeping and gnashing of teeth that they have claimed it to be dangerous. C-Doc says, lose his cash flow to the ketogenic lifestyle, another money-hungry MD who cares very little for the long-term health of their patients. That's right. I'm sorry, but if you're still a fat-phobic MD in 2019, you forgot your biochem, homie. Maybe read a journal or two, LOL, says Jess. Yeah, sadly, it does seem odd that you would have people that have these beliefs in light of all we know in 2019. Alberto says Atkins versus keto is as Newton versus Einstein. A very small modification in the math did a huge change in science, something never predicted by Newton. Yep. They lowered those cholesterol numbers just to put you on meds. Bonnie, yeah, that's a whole nother issue. We could do a whole nother Jimmy Rants all about. A balanced diet or high-carb gurus never talk about trigs. No, they do not, which is fat in the blood, as Alberto says. Shocker, the weight loss surgeon isn't keen on a permanent solution to weight loss that isn't about surgery. This is true, Jess. I did not think of it that way. Keto stoner, so many people just assume keto is only butter and bacon. While those are awesome, it's not just what ketoers live on. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'd love to know where this essential carb myth got started and why it's so dang pervasive in the medical community. And Jess, here's the thing. From a biochemistry standpoint, doctors more than anybody should know there is no essential carbohydrate. And yet they want to put out there, oh, you got to have lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and da-da-da-da-da. Almost all modern fruit is man-made, the selection of seeds over the centuries, says Alberto. This doc does not know what a GLUT4 receptor is. Probably not, Jess. Probably not. Why don't some of these people actually do the diet and blood work before they write an article? Well, Bonnie, I don't think these bariatric doctors would do it right. They would do something to sabotage it. So I don't want them anywhere near trying to do keto. We've seen some various media personalities. I did a whole one about a Fox News personality recently who tried keto, and he did all the wrong things. Oh my gosh. And I called him out about it on Jimmy Rants. What's his name? Steve Ducci recently. Don't let this guy give Canada a bad name about keto. We're having a keto conference. Awesome, Keto Stoner. Sam Martin 561. Let's face it, if you don't do your own research, you're never going to have anything good happen. You're not. Nicholas says, why would this publication include a random meal prep guy? Yeah, he was like, one of these things just doesn't belong here. Because the headline talked about doctors saying it's really bad, but then you had this meal prep guy. I am semi-understanding, including the bariatric surgeons, although they are clearly wrong, but who cares what this random guy had to say about keto? Kitty Caddick says, more like meal disservice. Like my friend says, stop this planet, I'll get off. That kind of article is great. They put their ignorance to the scrutiny of history, never unwritten again, says Alberto. Yeah. I love it when they put it out there because it gives me a chance to come on here on Jimmy Rants. And if you're watching this live on Instagram, on the replay, if you're watching it on YouTube, maybe you're listening to it on the Jimmy Rants podcast, all of these articles that are coming out now from these people that will be shown to be on the wrong side of history with their facts about keto, it will be funny to see how many of them will try to backtrack what they're saying now when science shows they were so verifiably wrong. Ashton says, I can't believe what a bunch of misinformation this so-called doctor is giving. Sadly, it happens more often than you know. Am I staying carnivore? No, I'm not staying carnivore at all. I'm staying keto carnivore. So yes, I am keto carnivore. Which of your contemporaries just did a rewrite on the Atkins book? That newer version, does that newer version come close to what keto actually approaches nutritionally? I know Atkins is not keto, but I'm curious, says Low Carb New Yorker. So yeah, the latest incarnation of the Atkins diet was the new Atkins for a New You, came out about 9 years ago, 2010. Dr. Jeff Folick, Dr. Steve Finney, and Dr. Eric Westman. But I can tell you, those three were the primary writers in terms of the names on the book, but the actual writing was from the Atkins Nutritionals company that peddles all the shakes and the bars. So there's a lot of peddling of shakes, bars, and all the nonsense that company promotes. That is not the Atkins diet, but that's what they put in there. And no, it is not a ketogenic approach. Can you get into ketosis eating that way? Some people, yes. Will people with a metabolic disturbance of some sort, like insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, one of these things, get in type 2 diabetes, get into ketosis eating that way and having those crappy bars and shakes? Nope, not going to happen. Keto Friendly 67 said, I did Atkins and was very successful, but that was back in the dark ages. I wish I would have stayed Atkins until keto, but we all thought it would kill us long term. I know now to question everything. And see, I did the Atkins diet in 2004. That was my foray into low carb, was doing the Atkins diet after reading Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution. And over time, I shifted over, realizing I was probably eating too much protein. I was probably allowing some of those Atkins bars and things to impact me. And I wasn't eating enough dietary fat. All those things was what helped bring my health into line when they got a little bit out of line when I was doing Atkins. C. Hurley, if you have a general question like the one you asked about the differences between carnivore and keto carnivore, you need to email that to me. So you can do it here through Instagram, send me a message, or you can write to me, jimmy@llvlc.com. Would be happy to answer that question. I just ranted on my Instagram, says Jess, about why I'm clean keto. Products are so misleading. Yeah, I could do a whole, and I have done some rants about making sure you're very, very careful with these so-called products that are out there. Some are very, very good, and some are extraordinarily bad. So discerning the good ones from the bad ones. It's one thing that I try to do for you guys. If you see me advertise something on one of my sites, you know they've gone through a heavy vetting process, and I would not promote something if it wasn't legit. All right, guys, so the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is no, keto is not just a repackaged version of the Atkins diet. It's not dangerous, and all the bariatric surgeons in the world in Canada, like this guy here, Dr. Chang, all of these things that you said about keto is telling me you don't know jack about keto. So we need to let it go. We need to stop spouting your mouth when you think you know what you're talking about, when it's very clear that you do not. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And if you like the show, thanks for being here. We start off over on Instagram. All my Instagram Jimmy Ranchers are right there. They watch the show live. So if you want to watch it live, go follow me on Instagram at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. I generally do one in the morning and one in the afternoon Eastern time. If you miss the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. So go watch the show on Instagram. But if you miss it on Instagram, you're not hanging out on Instagram, it's all good. We put all of the past episodes up on YouTube. So type in a keyword Jimmy Rants in YouTube or in a Google search, you will find the show. Finally, we have a Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants into Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. You will find the show. JimmyRants.com is the website with the links to all of the ways you can access this show. And guys, thanks so much for all the outpouring of love and support for the rant that I did this morning about taking 6 months off. I'm really looking forward to doing that here starting on September the 1st through February 29th. All of my podcast co-hosts know about this, and I'm kind of excited to see what happens. So I appreciate all the love and support that has come in since I did that video, and I'm kind of looking forward to it now. But I got a lot more to say between now and then. So until next time, we'll see you then.